If you're looking for a new way to support the podcast, check out Dubby.gg, an energy supplement company trying to make a difference. There you can use code SIDEMISSION for 10% off your order. Thank you to Dubby for sponsoring this episode, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome into the newest episode of Side Mission. I, like always, am your host, Rusty Ellis, joined by the boys, Kyle Lynch and Matt Beck. And fellas, we have a guest as well that is here. And this guest is 5 fucking years in the making. I've been waiting to have him on because we have referred to this individual multiple times. And when I say we, I mean me. I've hoed him a couple times on this podcast. I'm not going to lie. I've called him out a few times. But I don't think that everyone knew that Tom was a real person. So, Tom, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad that you're finally here because now I can hoe you to your face and you can defend yourself. Whereas before, you kind of had to passive-aggressively message me on Snapchat and remind me when I called you out. Because we record so many of these that I forget.
I don't know why you're acting like this is my first episode. I've been here from day one, dude.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Are you the intern that we hired the first week?
No, I've been on every single episode.
He's the guy in the chair.
This is a lie. That's literally Kyle. That's
like, dude, did you not? Like, I'm the reason we recorded Death Stranding 1's episode. What are you talking about?
Gaslight. Oh.
Yeah, we totally did that.
I was actually the only one that was low on Death Stranding 1. Rusty was like 10 out of 10 game. You're stupid.
What the fuck is this intro?
What snubbed everything.
What the fuck is this intro?
We snubbed everything else for Death Stranding 1. Don't you remember?
This might be the greatest intro to an episode ever. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Oh man!
In post, I'm gonna leave a note here. In post, Rusty, I want you to just cut everything that was just said and just cut it at when I say Tom's name, and then go right back to me. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Hey, I'm gonna listen to all that. Hell no.
I'm very excited to finally be on here and to correct you for all the things you are currently wrong about.
So, actually, everything that I have hoed you for, I am objectively correct about. Lords of the Fallen over Lies of P is one of your worst gaming takes.
I was being hopeful. I was being optimistic. I was holding my judgment because I was hopeful that Lords of the Fallen would prove me wrong, and it did not.
Well, to be fair, I just gave you a chance to defend yourself, and I don't blame you 100% because Lords of the Fallen at the time did look really good. So I can't fault you.
Good.
And it's why it's disappointing that it faltered like it did. Anyways, let's get back on the farm because we are like 3 minutes into this episode. We have not even said what game we're fucking reviewing. So.
Well, yeah, you just said it. We're back on the farm. We're reviewing Stardew.
I hate all of you. Anyways, we are reviewing Death Stranding 2 on the beach is what the fuck we are reviewing today. I hate you all, including Kyle, who's done nothing. You're guilty too. But nonetheless, I'm already out of breath. Good Lord. Nonetheless, I think this is a game that all four of us have very, very, very high, very high praise for. I think that's putting it mildly. I think all four of us really loved this game. And I think specifically, Kyle, I hoed Tom. I kind of have to hoe you now as well. And I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I would just like to take myself, Matt, Tom, I would like to take y'all on a little bit of a ride back in time. Back to around the beginning of June, right around the Switch 2 launch, because it was Summer Games Fest, and there was an entire day that was going to be dedicated, our entire event that was dedicated strictly to Death Stranding 2. Let me read a strand of messages from that day real quick. I don't know if I'm interested in Death Stranding 2. Next message. Actually, no, I'm sure. Next message. I'm not interested in Death Stranding 2. That was said by Kyle Lynch, 2025. Kyle, I say that in jest because obviously you said that, but I've had bad gaming takes before. Tom has, Matt has, we all have. That's nothing new. But I think, Kyle, to talk about where this game came from in terms of you weren't interested to, holy shit, what a ride and what cinema we just witnessed in that game. That's a pretty impressive turnaround in the way that game turned you around, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. It just, I think that when I looked at the the concept of the first game, I wasn't very interested, and I never even tried to play it. So when the second one came out and I saw that it was going to be pretty similar to the first one, I was like, well, I mean, what I've seen looks good, but I just don't think that's going to be a kind of game that can really capture me. And man, that first chapter, I was in. I said, I don't even care what kind of game this is. I'm in. Because the story of this game is why it is right now my game of the year. Hands down, the story. Like, we have a lot of other things we could talk about, but the story pulls you in quickly. And I think that was one of the things that the first game, it kind of took a little bit longer to get going than this one. And now I do want to go back and play it, having beat this one, but yeah, it is a pretty crazy turnaround, because I really was not interested at first, and then I kind of came around after watching a video on the first game, and the story is what hooked me, and I was like, all right, well, now I kind of want to see where it goes from here. End of chapter 1, I was in. I was addicted.
Well, I think what you said is the biggest reason I loved this game, is that it felt like Death Stranding 1, because I've played, of me, you, and Matt, I've played the most of it, I think. And because Tom was there helping me for a lot of it, I actually got to a point where I really appreciated all the aspects of the game and was really liking the story and liked the gameplay. But I always did feel the same of like, it just at certain points, it took a little bit too long to get going. It took a little bit too long to get to the point where I was like, okay, now we're in the meat of this. Now I feel like we can actually start to unravel this story and get into this gameplay and figure out why the hell I'm delivering all these packages, or what I'm trying to do here. Like, what is my end goal here? And I feel like this game early on, as a sequel, it does what every great sequel should do. And that's that it builds on the first game, but it doesn't repeat the same mistakes of the first game. And in that vein, the fact that on the very first delivery, you have an option to go into combat. You can try to sneak past, you can try to walk around, you can go head on in, and you can go, guns blazing. But I feel like having that option on the very first delivery was a massive selling point for me, because in the first game, you don't really encounter combat until, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like late into chapter 3, early in chapter 4. Like, you get a decent portion into the game, like probably 5 or 6 hours in, and then you get combat. And I think that's a hard selling point for a lot of people. Tom, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's a bit into the first game. You get a hint of combat. You don't get much of any combat really, until you get out of what a lot of people affectionately call the tutorial area, which is that first island, quote unquote, that you spend your time on in the first 2 hours of the first game. Because you have a scene where you're getting like, you encounter mules, and it's set up and designed in a way where you cannot outrun them. You cannot escape from them. And it's setting you up to feel like you're about to go into a combat scenario, and then it cuts to a cinematic, time fall hits, they run away because they realize that signifies that BTs are showing up, and so they haul ass to get away from you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like outside of that and the scene immediately, or the sequence immediately after burning Bridget's body at the incinerator, where you have to stealth your way past all of those BTs, that's really the closest that you get to combat in the first game. That's like story driven. You can get into optional combat. You can go to the mule camps in that first area and wipe them out immediately if you want to. It's a nuisance.
It might not be advised. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, all you got your strand. You don't have any weapons yet. So yeah, like it takes a minute to get combat before you get any like into that. It takes a minute in the first game to get like a good combat section going.
Which I think, again, this game, I think that's why this hooked me so fast, as well as like what Kyle said, the story. I think the story is incredible. And I think in a year where we've already had at least 2 other phenomenal stories in games like Split Fiction and Expedition 33, I feel like we're almost spoiled at this point getting one as good as Death Stranding 2 is, because where do we go from here? Like, where do we go in the game? Obviously, Donkey Kong Bonanza comes out as of right now, it comes out here in about 5-6 hours. But I sit here as storyteller, as a fan of storytelling, and I wonder where in the world do we go from gaming, because we are hitting such highs right now in some of these games that are coming out, and I just don't know how we improve upon it, because Death Stranding 2 story is just fantastic, and we are going to dive in specifically, which means this is a great spot. About 10, 15 minutes into the episode, great spot for me to tell you that we are going to dive into spoilers. So, with that being said, if you would like to experience this game unspoiled, do not listen to the rest of this beginning right now.
Can I also throw in real quick? We're probably going to be spoiling the first game too. Almost certainly we're spoiling
Probably.
at least some of the first game. If the conversation goes the way I think it's going to go.
Probably. I mean, there will probably be aspects of the first game that get mentioned as well. I will also say we're recording this, I can't remember exactly how long. I think the game's been out for close to 3.5, 4 weeks now. So, I mean, I feel like we're out of spoiler territory, but I still want to be fair to people. So if you don't care about spoilers and you're still here, awesome. If you've beaten the game and you're here, awesome. But this is absolutely the kind of game that you want to experience not knowing what's going to happen. If you play the game after listening to this story will not hit the same. Same thing I said about Expedition, same thing I said about Split Fiction. You want to experience these stories blind. Do not experience it after listening to us. Now, nonetheless, we'll go ahead and move forward. Matt, we saw in Expedition 33, and I'm not going to spoil that because Tom has not played that game yet. So I'm not going to spoil that. But Matt, we talked about in that episode about writers being ballsy when it comes to killing off certain characters and the timing of which they do it. This is where the spoilers for Death Stranding 2 start. The fact that they made the decision to kill Lou at the end of Chapter 1. My God, talk about a storytelling hook. I was locked in the moment that happened. I remember just thinking, holy shit, where in the world do we go from here? What is this story about to become? And Matt, I'll tell you, that is a story thread that I think that a lot of people, by the time they get to the end of that and they realize what's going on, there will not be a dry eye in the house. People are going to shed tears when they see the ending of that story arc.
Yeah, I was very shocked by it just because how important, Lou is. Now, I didn't play a lot of Death Stranding 1, but I do know the story for the most part, and I do know how important, Lou is. But back then it was just referred to as, just BB, was it 28?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, BB 28.
So, and it's like, it's not just so much that, game developers and story writers like Hideo Kojima here, they're not, I wouldn't just call it ballsy. I just like the fact that we are so conditioned when we go to a movie or we play a game or watch a TV show, we're so conditioned to, get connected to all the, to these characters. And just to see what happens to them, and just, for the most part, we always feel like they're going to make it through to the end, like nothing bad is going to happen. But when, our expectations, when, they're subverted, is that the correct word?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you subvert our expectations like that and you're showing us something that we're just not used to, I think that just puts a grip on you and it keeps you going. Some people will just be like, you know what, I can't watch this. For example, like my mom, if a movie has a bad ending, she cannot watch it. Like me and my dad, my dad will have to ask me, hey, does this movie have a bad ending? Because if so, I can't show it to your mom. But to me, it's like, I like it when they do that. Like, I like it when they kill characters. Like, a little bit of a spoiler for Invincible, but when they killed, what's his name? Kyle.
There's a lot of people that die in Invincible, Matt.
I'm talking about Explode. Yeah. Rexplode. Yes. When that happened, I messaged Kyle and I was like, dude, I didn't see that coming. Like, I know that pretty much everybody's, fate is up in the air. But to see that actually happen to a character that I saw getting so much character development that you didn't see in the first 2 seasons, I was like, that just shocked me. And going back, like, Lou is, one of the most important parts of Death Stranding. Like, he's that connection with Norman Reedus. Oh, she.
Yeah.
Sorry, when I hear Lou, my apologies.
Did you play the game? I'm just kidding.
Yes, I did. But the connection, how important that Lou is to Sam, who's the main character, You don't expect to see that happening, especially so early on in the game. And that's another thing that Expedition 33 did. They took out a character very early on in the game you just did not see coming.
Yes. And I think that, again, like, you have to commend a writer that's willing to take a risk like that, because there are a lot of people, and I think that Expedition 33 did have that impact on some people with the decision they made at the end of Act 1. There were some people that got to that and were like, I don't know if I want to play any more of this. I really liked that character, and I don't like that they're not here anymore. Like, there are some people that will not react to that well, and you kind of have to take that risk as a writer. If you're going to tell a story like this, you have to be willing to take risks. And I give Hideo Kojima a lot of credit. This is a story that does take a lot of risks. It's kind of crazy at certain points. It's kind of crazy is like an understatement. It's batshit crazy at several different points. But he does such a good job in this narrative of tying it all together, because it'd be easy at some point in a plot that is as wild and goes as many different places as this one does. It would be really easy to lose that plot at some point. It'd be really easy to lose control and it kind of go off the rails. But I never really felt that it did. And I think that that's very impressive, very commendable. There was never really a point. Like I said openly with Expedition that at the end of Act 2, I very much hit a wall where I was like, I feel like the game should have ended right there. Now, I went back on those words when I played Act 3 and it made sense, but I still hit that wall at some point. I don't think with Death Stranding 2 I ever hit that wall. I think I was always motivated to go and see this story through to the end. And I think a lot of that, and Tom, I'll let you get into this a little bit, but I think that a lot of that is the characters in this story. I think that the characters we get back from the first game in this one are very, very compelling still. I feel like they're written even better this time around. Specifically, Fragile is, honestly, to me, she was the show stealer. She was the show stealer. I loved her character arc this entire game. I thought she was fantastic. And then the introduction of characters like Tarman, Dollman, Rainey, Tomorrow, who obviously plays a massive role, and we will talk more about her later. Tom, I feel like a lot of this narrative, it's carried by these characters, and Hideo Kojima did such a good job of making them all stand out in their own ways.
I've been playing Hideo Kojima's games as long as I've been gaming. And so I have this deep-seated love for him that has been developing over the past 20-something years. So when I say that I think Death Stranding 2 has his best character work to date, I have a considerable backlog of characters that he's worked on and he's created over the years to compare them to. I think that I would be pretty willing to agree that Fragile is the show stealer. She and Sam get a lot of play. They get a lot of love in this game. They get a lot of chances to just shine. I think my favorite side character for the bulk of the game was Rainey. I love Rainey. There's a movie called Weathering with You that I really like, and it's basically like the character is basically Rainey. It's a girl that like is like the inverse. She goes outside and like prevents it from raining. And I love weird like character elemental characters and the way they interact with the world and the weather around them and stuff like that. And I like the intro to Rainey where she's doing the dance sequence for Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head from Dancing in the Rain. Like that was great. I loved Tarman. He was so great. Deadman got a lot of really good work, especially in the beginning of the game. He got a lot of attention and a lot of care. His revelation to Sam. We're in full spoiler territory, right?
Yes.
When he said, "I have a beach, I have a ha and a ka of my own," I was bawling, dude. That tore me up because that's one thing that is from the first game that's pivotal to Deadman. Deadman has this deep-seated fear that he's not human because he's kind of a Frankenstein's monster. He's cobbled together from different like dead bodies, essentially, which is a Hideo Kojima thing. That's such a weird way to do something. But he's like a Frankenstein's monster. And in the first game, he was so concerned about where he was going to go after he died. He was so concerned about having a beach and having a place to go and having like something of his own, because he was like how much of me is human and how much is not? What do I what do I have waiting for me? And so when he had that moment where he told Sam he had his own beach and he had that chiral allergy where he started crying, I was crying right along with him, man. It broke me down real quick. And that's where I knew that this game was going to be something special. I was smiling the whole time I was playing this game. Like as soon as you set off on that first, like, that opening cinematic where you get like where you just walk back home with Lou and the camera like pulls back, you have that really sick aerial shot. Like I was locked in from that point on. But when we got that moment with Deadman, that's when I knew that Kojima was on something truly special.
Yeah, I mean, it happens very early on in the game. So I mean, it's a game that doesn't pull its punches. It hits right from the very jump, and it harkens me back to a game like God of War Ragnarok, where they hit you right out of the gate with Fenrir dying in that one. They hit you right out of the gate, and they're here to tell you, hey, this story is going to hit, and it's going to hit hard for 30, 40 hours. And I like that this game did that as well. It said, again, I have to commend a writer that chooses to take risks, not late in the game, not halfway through the game, not even a few hours into the game, early in the game, like within the first hour or so, he's taking risks. I kind of respect that because, again, we don't get that kind of risk taking a lot in games nowadays. It feels like a lot of games that come out, they play it very, very safe. And Hideo Kojima is not that kind of writer. He's not that kind of director. And I respect that a lot. Kyle, getting back into the gameplay elements, one of the memes around this game is two words that I know Tom is going to get triggered by. So, Tom, relax. I am not calling the game this. I am saying other people who are morons call the game this. Kyle, the idea that this game is a walking sim, it could not be further from the truth. This game is so much more than that. And I feel like, again, the moment we get to Australia, we cross the plate gate, and we start connecting facilities that are in Australia, I feel like that's where it opens up and we realize that this game is a whole lot more than just a walking sim.
See, I think people that call this game a walking sim are the same people that call Sony games movie games. I think they're just afraid of a good story. Because there might be long cutscenes. However, there's also a lot of gameplay as well as a lot of side content to do in between the main stuff, which is usually where the long cutscenes are. So, you know, we tend to play games and go for the story, but I think that when developing the game, they expect most people to spend a lot of time doing the side content in between the story, which means that you're probably not getting long cutscenes very often because of how much side content there is in this and how much it's not just padding. It actually benefits you. The side content is very much worth it and very much encouraged. I think that calling this game a walking sim is dumb because for maybe 15% of the game I was walking. The rest I was driving. You get vehicles pretty early on, and you can borrow anybody's fucking vehicle out of the garage, like, pretty much whenever.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, like, even if you don't have the materials to craft your own vehicle, there's usually vehicles available. I was driving most of this game. Walking is what you... So the people that call it a walking sim only played the first maybe fucking chapter or two. Because I'm pretty sure in Chapter 2 I had a vehicle by then.
Well, Chapter 2 is just a damn cutscene.
Yeah.
Like, Chapter 2 is like one stealth sequence and then a cutscene. Like, to me, it's like, when people call this game a walking sim, I'm like, you're not giving the game an honest chance. You're not. Like, give the game a shot, get 10 plus hours into it, and then at that point, if the game is not hooked you, the game is not hooked you. It is what it is. I guarantee you, a lot of people out there that are hating on it have not gotten more than maybe a mission or two in, and they've given up on it, and it is a shame that you have done that. Because I truly do believe, and Matt, we can go into this a little more, when you get to Australia and you start connecting facilities, you do what Kyle said, you start investing in some of the side content, aka building roads, completing sub orders, completing, different things to help raise your connection level with certain facilities to where you can upgrade your gear, get better weapons, get better equipment. I feel like once you get into that gameplay loop, that is where the game starts to really shine, because that feeling of progression is so rewarding, and it gives it to you right out of the gate. And I feel like that is something, again, that if you just give the game a chance and you get through the first 2 chapters, and again, both of those chapters are very good, you get to where the game opens up, and I feel like the game rewards you for getting through the first 2 chapters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. After a couple hours, like once I got to Australia, like there was a time that I thought that I was just gonna stop playing. To be honest with you, because I don't think at the time it was clicking for me. Then Russ, you actually helped me out, and you showed me a few things. And then I think once you get the offloader, I think that's the biggest game changer for me. Because there's just how much stuff, how many deliveries that you can store into it, especially once you have roads up. It is a walk in the park to get the certain things done. And I think another thing that I really loved is the fact that when you're connected online, it's not just you building stuff. There are things that are being built from other players.
Yes.
In your world, like you'll see a bridge that wasn't there a while back when you played, or you'll see a ramp, or you'll see you'll see other roads that are already done. And I think that's fantastic, because a game like this, you have to have a community of some sorts to work together to help each other, to make it a lot easier to progress the world itself. Because I mean, the continent is huge, and I mean, you got areas that are like 50,000 meters away, and it's crazy. Not 50,000, 5,000.
5,000. Hey,
my bad. Listen, you know what? I like to add zeros. I just wish I could add them to my paychecks.
Hey, listen. Some of these deliveries do feel like they are 50,000 meters away. So you're not wrong. But I do think though that you're right. When you get the off-roader and you unlock that, I do feel like that is a massive. That's a massive turning point in the game for a lot of people, because you go from being able to carry like 2, maybe 3 deliveries and being able to move decently on your feet or decently on a tri-cruiser. You're able to now all of a sudden do way more than that. You can take literally every delivery that is at one facility, and then as you're delivering to each facility, take all of their deliveries, and it's literally just a gameplay loop. But you're able to do it so seamlessly with the off-roader. Like that helps a lot. And then you also mentioned this. And I wanted to reference something that Kyle said when we were talking about this game a couple weeks ago when we were playing it more. And that was that for a single player game, it's impressive the amount of community that it has. It's impressive that it doesn't have multiplayer, but you feel like you are playing alongside all of these people. And I feel like that is very true. I feel like that's one of the biggest strengths of this game. Tom, you had a great story that I wanted you to share the last time we spoke about, you being on the episode, about some guy whose vehicle you used for pretty much the entire game. And I wanted you to tell that story.
Yeah. So much like everybody said, like one of the big things about this game is, once you connect a survivalist or, a distro center, or just anybody to the chiral network, it opens up the online for their area. And so that means that vehicles will drop in, buildings will drop in, lost cargo will drop in, and that's all of this stuff is now available for you to start interacting with. And I picked up a truck because one thing that it also does is that you can get vehicles even if you might not have the equipment unlocked yet. So for example, you get the offloader very quickly, but you don't get the attachments for it until you start getting to the motherhood, but I'm not 100% sure. It might be
it takes
F2,
a while,
but it does take a while. And so, but despite that, once you are able to craft the offloader, people can drop their offloader in with equipment attached to it. So you have like a sticky cannon that you can attach onto the truck that will just pick cargo up for you as you're driving around. You get like guns and all this other stuff. And I picked up somebody's truck very early. I was like, what is this? Because I was very confused about what was on there. And I just like I hopped in, I started driving off, and immediately the cannon like locked onto a thing of cargo and like grabbed it, and I lost my mind
Yeah.
because of how like completely game changing that was. And I used that truck from about I want to say chapter 5 all the way up to uh connecting the last
Terminal 4
last terminal. Yeah. I used it all the way to that, and about halfway through, I was delivering to the pizza chef, which, by the way, off topic, or not off topic, but little tangent. My favorite cutscene in the entire game is the pizza chef. When you
Yes.
get the trophy for unlocking his secret, when you get that trophy for unlocking his secret, best cutscene in the game, without a doubt.
That's pure Kojima right there.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. But I pulled my truck up to the pizza chef to drop off an order, and I saw the guy's name on the truck, and I was like, I had this moment of like, I had this moment of just like kind of what I had like repeatedly throughout the game, which was remembering how special this game is to me and how special the community of people that play this game are to me. So I found the guy's name because it tells you like the player's vehicle that you're using. So like it'll be like, so and so's truck. It'll show their porter grade and all this other stuff. So I found his name and I shot him. I took a few pictures in photo mode. Photo mode, by the way, incredible. So much fun to play with. I love photo mode in this game. It's probably the best version of it. I took some photos in photo mode and I tweaked them around, and you can make Sam do all these different things. And I sent those pictures to him, and I sent him a message saying, hey Porter, recognize this vehicle behind me. That's your truck. I picked it up about 5 chapters ago, and I've been using it ever since. It has gotten me through every shred of terrain that I've had to come up to yet. It has gotten me through every delivery, through multiple BT zones. I've used this truck to set up roads. I've used this truck to build the monorail system. I've driven this truck from one end of the continent to the other and back multiple times. And I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say thank you for this vehicle, because I feel like this vehicle really changed my enjoyment of the game, or not my enjoyment, but it changed my playthrough because of how much I used it. And I just wanted to say thank you. And the line in the game, like the famous line from the game, is "Keep on keeping on." So I signed off with "Keep on keeping on," and he messaged me back, and he was like, this was like 6 hours, 7 hours later. He messaged me back and he said, "I'm really happy to know that my equipment has been helping a fellow porter out. That warms my heart." And then he said, "Hugs from Brazil. Keep on keeping on." And I was like, in that moment, I was like, damn, dude,
that's really cool.
Just connecting in that way with somebody continents away, time zones away, hours and hours away, through their one piece of equipment they left. And just having that moment of like that shared connection of that, like it didn't matter where we were in the world, we were both in that game. And it was this like it's this moment of like realization. And this is, to kind of go a little long in the tooth, this is why the first game is so important to me, because I played that first game at like the height of pandemic, where everybody was isolated, everybody was shut in. I wasn't seeing most people, I wasn't talking to most people. I barely saw my family. So I got this game that's all about reconnecting people who are isolated. And I mean, it hooked me immediately. It got me from the first section of that first game, and I've been on ever since. And so, it's this reminder of, you're never truly alone, both in the game and in real life. There's always somebody there, even if you don't see them standing beside you. There's always somebody that's there with you, and that's one of the things that I think this game really exemplifies, is the connection that we can forge with other people. We just have to take the first step to do it.
Yeah. I think that story is a great example of, people talk about gaming like it's antisocial and it's this way to just stay shut in and to not interact with the world. And I always tell people that question why I'm almost, I'm going to turn 30 later this year, and that scares me. But I'm pushing 30. Well, no, Matt's 40, so I mean, it's all good. So, but like people ask, like, why when you're almost 30, why do you still game? And they say, is it because you don't want to grow up or because you don't want to let go of your child? I'm like, no, it's because I genuinely enjoy it, and it's what's led me to some of my best friends. I mean, I have two of them that I do a podcast with, so I mean, it's led me to some of my best friends. It's led me to some of my best relationships. Like, people underestimate the social aspect of games, and I feel like this game is a great example of that, because the entire point is, like you said, Tom, is connecting people. It's getting people all together again, and I feel like the community is a really good representation of that. So I really, when you told me that story about a week ago, I think at this point, or a little over a week ago at this point, I knew I wanted you to tell that story again, just because I felt like that really, I felt like it would enhance the episode. I think it did. Anyone who's listening can tell me otherwise, but I do feel like that is a great kind of barometer of what kind of effect this game can have. And it goes to show that games, and Matt, you said this, and I couldn't agree more, games as an art is something that people thought was impossible for so long. They thought that it was something that was dead and that it just wasn't possible anymore. This, Expedition, Split Fiction, all prove that games can still be art. And that it may look different to each person, but it can still work, and they can still be kind of levels above your atypical. When people think of gaming, they think of Call of Duty. They think of Mario. They think of the stuff like that. This is kind of that higher level, and it's what Death Stranding 2 does so well. Is a lot of it is credited to Hideo Kojima just having this wacky vision and being willing to fully commit to it and really not sacrifice anything from it. I think that's the biggest thing, because going back into some of the characters, because Tom, that's where I wanted to go after. I wanted to stay with you for this one. Mm-hmm. I had a bit, I don't think it's a hot take. I might have somebody here that tells me otherwise. I know that there are some big Last of Us fans in this Discord call right now. But I think this game is the single best performance in the career of Troy Baker. I think that Higgs might be his best role, and I love him as Joel. I loved him as Booker DeWitt in BioShock Infinite. Kyle, we loved him in Metal Hellsinger. He was fantastic in Metal Hellsinger. To me, this is a performance, Tom, that is like generationally good, and I don't know if he's ever going to be able to top it.
I think that what you can see, and I watched a lot of interviews with everybody talking about doing the game and how much they loved working on it, and I think what you get from everybody is Kojima is willing to just let them do their thing. He's willing to let them just act. He's willing to let them work the scene. I love the one of Norman Reedus where he's talking about how brilliant Kojima is to work with. He's like, and then he'll do something weird. He'll be like, okay, now pick up the baby doll and cry. And it's like, well, why? I don't have any context for that. But he in doing that also leaves the door wide open, so they have the chance to work in the character the way they want to, and that's also a strength of being able to come back for a second game.
He gives them creative freedom. Yeah,
you do. Higgs in the first game was great. If I remember right, you were not high on him in the first game.
I don't think I disliked him.
Yeah,
I don't think I disliked him. I think that I don't know that I had enough experience with him at that point. He is in this game, I feel like, a lot more. I feel like he is a steady presence in the entirety of this game, whereas I'll compare it to like Final Fantasy VII Remake versus Rebirth. In Rebirth, Sephiroth is a lot more present in that game. He has a presence throughout the entire game. In Remake, he's there, but it's kind of an afterthought at some point that Sephiroth is there. That to me was Higgs in the first game compared to Higgs now.
And I mean, that's completely valid. And I do think it's a case of like, you gotta kind of be sparing with your villain. You don't want him to be there the whole time, because then he loses the fear that he can cause when he does show up, which in this game he never did. Every time Higgs showed up, I was nervous, because I played the first game. I platinumed the first game. I spent multiple hundred hours in the first game. I know everything about what Higgs is doing, and I know exactly where we left him. And so I'm like, one, how the hell are you here? And two, what are you going to do? Because he was already unhinged in the first game. He was already going big in the first game. And that opening or that introductory scene where we get back to him and they like the ghost mechs bring the coffin up and the lid falls back and he steps out, and he's in full theater mode. He's living for this. He is chewing, like Troy Baker is chewing every shred of scenery that they give him in this game. And he is menacing. He is scary. He's funny at times. He's genuinely comedically funny. And then at the end of the game, he also gets a little emotionally vulnerable, and you kind of almost feel bad for him. Mm-hmm. Like he goes through the whole range, the whole spectrum of emotion in this game, and he brings in a performance that I agree I don't think he's going to be able to beat. And like I've seen complaints that all he did was go big and go loud, and that's just not true. Like there's a lot of really quiet moments with Higgs where I was more afraid than I was when he was like at the end of the first game, where he was like locked into the chest of the giant BT that you have to fight in the final boss battle. Like there were moments where he was just standing there very quietly talking, and I was horrified because of what I was worried that he was going to do. Like Troy Baker brings everything to this role, and my God, it delivers on every single level.
To me, the line early on, and it's in the first cutscene. I think it's near the end of the first cutscene that he's in. There's a line that he has of "I'll be damned." I'm not going to say it word for word. I'm going to mess up probably part of it, but just stick with me. It's "I'll be damned if I let you link up this entire continent," and not because extinction is my creed, but because I want to build a new world built on fear and chaos. And to me, when I heard that, I was like, that is the greatest line he has ever delivered. That to me, like, this is a man that has lost his fucking mind. And Troy Baker is leaning into this to me gives the feeling of Troy Baker has always wanted to portray a bad guy. He has always wanted to portray a villain. He has had very few opportunities. He's been primarily a protagonist. I know, Joel, there's, people go back and forth. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? There's not really one simple answer to that. But nonetheless, he's been primarily a protagonist. In these two games where he's an antagonist, this seems like the role he was almost born to play because he is fucking evil and he hams it up. And again, it's like you said, Hideo Kojima kind of giving his voice actors and voice actresses, giving them that creative freedom to, hey, go all in. I'm going to give you a very loose guide of what I want you to do. You build the character from there. What happens in this game will be built entirely on what you do with the information I give you. So, Kyle, now I'm going to give you a little bit of praise because you figured out a twist in the game much earlier than I was hoping you would. And it is a reveal much later in the game that you said, admittedly, because you figured it out, it hit a little bit different for you, but it's still a great reveal all the same. And that has to do with the character Tomorrow. So I will let you dive in and explain how you figured out what you figured out.
So in Chapter 5, I believe, after Chapter 5, or the end of it, when you're syncing up, how you see Lou's memories whenever, they're going up through the elevator. If you notice, there was one specific cutscene where the person you're watching is obviously a young kid, but they're in the same place that you find Tomorrow. And the one thing that gave it away for me was she pulled one of those tar spikes out of her arm, and the only other person I've ever seen do that was Tomorrow. Not only that, name another blonde character. There isn't one. Lou and Tomorrow both blonde. I mean, it's a pretty dumb, comparison, but if you think about it, there's no other blonde characters. It was, right there in the beginning, but nobody would have picked that up. But the tar spike coming out of her arm is what gave it away, because I was like, no fucking way. We're watching Lou's memories. That's tomorrow, because she's the one who I saw pull those tar spikes out. She's not dead. And that raised so many questions for me, and it did low-key hit different a couple of scenes. Like the one where Sam finally realizes that, Lou's gone. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is really fucking sad. At the same time, she's in the other room. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
He's in the other room.
He doesn't.
That's
know.
wild.
I was mad as fuck because I was like, I just want to tell him. She's right
you
there.
You were the Riddler. Does he know? He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. Oh man, I was so shook the rest of that day though when I figured out that Lou was tomorrow. Like, I told Rusty, I was like, I could not believe what I had realized.
I was impressed.
It was crazy. It literally was the tar spike that gave it away. There were a couple of other hints, like I mentioned, but that's what it was. And man, I wondered. I asked Rusty, and I know now there were a few things that I was also getting hints at. That playing it back through, you'll be like, oh shit, how did I not get that? But I love that about this game, and I guess other Kojima games must also do this, where the hints are pretty fucking in your face. At the same time, that's the best place to hide them, because you're not going to put two and two together. You're thinking it's more complex than it is. It was crazy, dude. It was really good. It was a really good twist, though.
It makes me think back to Arkham City when you find out that obviously that Clayface has been acting as the Joker the whole time. And spoiler alert for that game. If you haven't played that game, it's been out for 13 years. Spoiler alert there.
I haven't played any of those games, man. What? I was like 5 minutes away from that reveal. What are you doing?
Oh, well, but it's something that there's a line from that game where the Joker says, how do you trick the world's greatest detective? You put the clue right under his nose. You put it right under his nose, right in front of his face, because he will never look there. And it's so true, because here there are so many hints to what's happening that you just don't see them until the game chooses to just outright tell you about them. Because one, and Matt, this allows me, and this may be not a huge reveal, but it's another character I wanted to discuss, because it's basically the first game had Clifford Unger, and that was like the big flashback character that was used. I am hard pressed to think that Neil Vana, this is one of the most interesting characters in a game ever. Yeah. Because to me, it's a guy that is a porter. He's smuggling stuff over the border. He's having to smuggle a body, and he is sick to his stomach. He doesn't want to fucking do it. So to get out of it, he ends up having an affair with Sam's wife. And she ends up lying and saying that the baby is his when she ends up pregnant, lies and tells Sam that the baby is Neil's. We obviously find out later that's a lie. But Matt, even the reveal of his name, he damn near says it in Chapter 5, and Dollman thinks that he's saying Nirvana.
He said Nirvana?
But it's like you go back and you watch it. Like when I watched you play through it, I was like, he very clearly is not saying Nirvana. No. But because you wouldn't know that at that point, you hear it because Dollman says it, you hear it as Nirvana. And Matt, I feel like, again, that's a segue to talk about Neil a little bit as a character, because, again, if there is a sympathetic character in this game and it's not Higgs, Neil Vana is one that got a really shitty hand dealt to him by the world around him. But to me, that's what made him interesting, was watching him deal with it, watching him process all of it. And I felt like his boss fights were some of the high points in this game when it came to the combat.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. We talked quite a lot of the characters that are, working with Sam, but to me, he's the standout. Neil, absolutely, not just, the imagery, the story behind him, just the mystery that goes behind it for the majority of the game. And again, those boss fights. I know, Rusty, we wanted to watch that first one on the OLED TV. And I had to pause.
God,
I had to pause the game in several sections, and I was like, you know what? This is a perfect time for a picture. Look at all of these particle effects, just like spinning off in the background, and it just looked like this insane light show. Like the shadow effects, the particle effects were just incredible. And I did enjoy the combat here. I like the fact that it's an open space. You have to use the. I'm going to say this. I'm going to butcher the Redderdeck. How you say it?
Oh, the Odra deck.
Odra
deck. Thank you. I like
you're new here. You're new here. Matt has like chronic pronunciation problems. You're new here. There you go.
Dang, this man's ears don't work and his mouth don't work.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow, we're going to cut that actually. But the fact that you using the Odra deck to locate where the enemies are, and then locating where they're going and going to the location, and they just move around. It was a bit kind of like, I'm not gonna lie. Each time that you do this, it's a bit samey, and I was just. But I think that it really like did a much better job of doing it when you are on the third one, which was the last one, and it actually leads off to the boss fight with him, which was a lot of fun. Now, I think I maybe would have enjoyed it a bit more if I maybe had played on a little bit more difficult setting other than story mode, but I really just wanted to get through it and experience the story and everything. But I mean, maybe I'll eventually go back and do it on a harder difficulty. But it's not a complicated boss fight. It's just simply as locating where he's at and shooting at him. And I think it was well done. Like, it wasn't too complicated. I mean, and the number of weapons at your disposal is crazy. Also, like the fact that when you're on one of the trains and everything just flips and it's almost like you're, upside down. It kind of felt like an Inception moment right there.
Yeah.
But Luca, I want to say his last name, Marinelli.
Yes, Luca Marinelli. Yes.
Yeah. Bar none. I literally want to go see his movie. I want to watch movies he's in now. He had me hooked, and it was just like the facial expressions, his somber, like the sadness in his face. Like, the dude translated from the mocap so well. Like, it was actually, I was just looking at him directly watching a movie because of how incredible the graphics in this game are. Like, everything is just so well done. And not going too much into his story, but damn, by the end of the game, I think it's his face expression at the very end that I think caused me to tear up, because you could see how much pain and anguish was going on for everything that he went through.
I think what you said that landed the most with me was that he doesn't have a ton of voice lines in the game. Exactly. A lot of what he's thinking, a lot of what he's feeling,
it's in the eyes.
You're seeing it. It's entirely in his eyes. This is one of the most impressive acting performances I've seen, with someone just pretty much telling the entire story with their eyes. This is a really impressive version of that, because he was great whenever he had to speak. He was fantastic whenever he had to speak, but he didn't have to in order to deliver a powerful performance. And I think that's really impressive. That goes a really long way, the fact that he was able to pull that off. And Tom, I know that we both loved the little callback to Solid Snake with the headband time.
The headband, dude. You were in the Rusty was in the party with me. We spent the first 2 days going back and forth overtaking each other before he just blew past me, because I got locked in on chapter 3 and spent 8 hours just delivering packages. But he was in the party with me because he had already played that part, so he was excited to watch me play it. And when Neilvana put the headband on, dude, I went bananas, because Metal Gear Solid used to be the franchise that was my favorite game franchise of all time. It's my longest running franchise. It's the one that I have spent the most time with, just in terms of how many games for Metal Gear Solid I've played over the years. And so when I saw Neilvana put that headband on and look dead into the camera, I lost my mind. I was like, this is Kojima giving the middle finger of all middle fingers to Konami and saying, look, I made it. I made it without you.
which you have to respect. I mean, it's
dude, yes.
Kojima was done very, very dirty by Konami. And don't get us wrong, like, we're excited for Metal Gear Delta. I think, Kyle, even more now we are because of how much we enjoyed Death Stranding 2 and the fact that we can kind of, maybe ease our way into these games now and not just say, they're not for me after 2 hours. But you do have to respect that somebody that was done dirty, he could have pouted about it, he could have cried about it, could have gone to social media and whined about it. He didn't. He went and he made 2 bangers, and I really respect that with him. So, it's funny enough, I think we're over an hour into this episode, and we've not even talked about how this game performs. Like, that is one of the most impressive things in this game is visually, this might be the best looking game we have ever seen. It might just be that. Like, it might just be that. And I don't say that lightly because we've gotten some fantastic looking games in the last several years. We have gotten some really, like, when I think of games this generation that stand out to me, I know, Kyle, one that we both talk about is Returnal. It looks fantastic and runs great. I know that the Demon Souls remake is another one. And then, Matt, you've talked obviously very, very glowingly about specifically the DLC of Horizon Forbidden West and how impressive technically that was. So for us to say that about a game like this, Kyle, it's not us saying it very lightly. It's us saying, knowing that we've had a lot of really impressive looking games, but this might just be the best looking of the bunch.
I think it's hard. It's really difficult because from a technical aspect, this game does not have ray tracing. However, if you look at Chapter 5 in its entirety, I could not believe that it didn't have ray tracing, which almost makes it more impressive. Because the only place I've ever seen reflections like that was Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. That, I think, is one of the best looking games ever. I mean, if you look at screenshots from that game, just people walking around the city, zoomed out a little bit, or if there's no player models, like just the cars and the buildings and shit, that shit looks like real life. It has been mistaken for real life. This is another one of those games where I saw the photo comparison between the starting area of the game and where it looks in real life. It is synonymous. I mean, there's no difference. It was insane. I couldn't believe it. I was like, which one's the fucking picture? You know, or I mean, which one's the game?
The same picture.
They were literally the same picture. It was insane how photorealistic this game is. They, I think, may have fucking taken the cake for the best looking game I think I have ever seen. Because you can make a game look good at a distance, but once you get up to it and you look at those textures up close, that's what really tells me, okay, you know, how realistic is it? And this, you can get as close as you want, and it looks great. I seriously, I think it's really tough. It's really, really tough between this and Spider-Man 2. I don't know. I think that this personally, and it might be biased, but this may be the best looking game ever.
Well, and again, there are so many games we didn't even factor into that, like the ones that I listed off. I mean, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart would be up there in terms of PS5 exclusives. You talk about a game like either of the Last of Us games on PS5. They both look fantastic. Like, that's the thing that makes this so... Elden Ring is more of a case, in my opinion, of art style over, like, visual technicalities. I think the art style of that game outweighs a little bit of the finer details. But that's always been FromSoft's MO. And FromSoft has never been about high power. They've always been about, can we build a world that has atmosphere, that looks good, but maybe doesn't look photorealistic. That's always been FromSoft's MO. But Elden Ring is a great looking game. I just don't know that I put it in the same vein as... Now, Demon Souls, the remake, that is a visually impressive game. That's up there in this discussion for me. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because again, and this might be, Kyle, you correct me if I'm wrong, this might be the first time we have ever had a chance to talk about this specific piece of equipment on Side Mission. We saw this game on an OLED. We saw it on my TV. We saw it on Matt's little 4K TV that has a bunch of fucking dots and circles on it. It ruined any time there was sunlight. He ruined it. But correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, we also got to see how it performed on the PlayStation Portal. We also got to see how it performed on there. And dude, it's impressive. That is impressive how it performed on there.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's all based off of how good your internet connection is when you're using the portal. And I didn't notice anything different that I wouldn't have seen on my TV. Like, it was great. Like, you were just playing it on the TV, doing some deliveries. I was further progressing through the story, just like we were just hanging out in the same room. I didn't have to lug around my PlayStation and my other TV into the room for us to play. This is not me trying to sell people a portal, by the way.
We are not sponsored. We are not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
Not yet.
Come on, Sony.
Sony, hit me up. What's up?
Dog, I've been glazing this game for an hour and a half. Call me.
But I for real, and that's what I thought was so impressive, that this was the first time I'd seen someone use a portal. And when I looked at it and I was watching you play it, I was like, one of these things used might not be a bad purchase, just because this is kind of sick to be able to play this handheld. It might not be as seamless as the Switch or the Switch 2. It might not be as seamless as either of those, but it was pretty impressive to see that game portably look really just as good as it did on like my TV. That's impressive. Mm-hmm. It's impressive. They optimized it very, very well for the portal. I have to give them a lot of credit for that. They did a very good job optimizing it. So this episode is long as fuck in the tooth, as is. We have discussed a shit ton, but we obviously have to talk about the ending. And it goes without saying that, like, it feels like chapters 11 through 16 are such a fucking roller coaster ride. Like, it is nonstop. Kyle, you said cinema, and we say that as a joke sometimes, but in this circumstance, that is legitimately what this is. It is cinema. For 5 chapters, it is nothing but pure cinema, because it feels like every second you think they can't surprise you with the story, they do. Here goes another twist. Oh, you thought that DHV Magellan stood for Deep Tar Hunting Vessel? Fuck no, motherfucker. That stood for Die Hard Man. He's alive the entire time. He was alive this whole time. Like, that to me was crazy that they brought him back, and it was sick. It was sick. Yeah. Like, I love that. And it's just like, you have that, and then you have Fragile transporting them to the beach to take on Higgs to stop his plan. And that entire sequence of everybody kind of locking in with their dooms and having to pretty much work together to get there. like, it is all just so breathtaking.
I didn't stop playing. Keanu Reeves. Once it started, I did not stop playing.
Like, it's one of those that, like, again, if the first chapter didn't hook you, fine. But if you made it to this point and you are not like, oh fuck, I'm here, baby, I'm locked in the rest of the day, I am not moving from this spot. Mm-hmm. Like, if that doesn't do it, you don't have a soul. You don't have a soul at that point, because the story hits a high point and it just never comes down. And I think in a day and age where a lot of video games sometimes struggle to get over the finish line, the ending of this game and how they wrap it up, it's so well done.
Yeah, from the final 5 chapters, I literally was binging. I could not put this shit down. It was so fucking good. Every twist, every step, I was like, I gotta know how it ends. As I got closer, I was just getting so excited. That final boss fight, holy shit, dude. Only Kojima could have the final fucking boss fight be a guitar battle over the literal extinction of humanity. What fucking
It's so good.
cinema, bro! I was geeking out, bro. Because I mean, as a big time metal fan, as somebody who grew up playing guitar, I was geeked, bro. I could not believe I was witnessing one of the greatest endings to a video game. Bro had us guitar battling. It was a fucking face melter. That shit was awesome. And I'm not even gonna lie, that version of BB's theme where Troy Baker sings, bro, I even saved that shit on my Spotify.
Oh,
the whole album is on there.
Yeah,
for me.
it's so good.
So good. That ending was fantastic. I do think, I'm pretty sure we're getting a third game because they did not wrap up quite a bit of stuff. First of all, my biggest question, at the end of Death Stranding 1, when Sam was talking to his mother or sister, I'm not sure, we're just going to call her Bridget, she said that I will stay here for now, but it can't be forever. Which obviously meant we're getting a sequel because at some point they got to figure out what to do, and in this game they did not address that. So I'm curious, in the third game, you know, like, is it going to be Sam's daughter tomorrow? Is it going to, like, I don't know if this is going to end up just being a whole series and we're going to get 4, 5, 6 like they do with Metal Gear Solid, but at some point they gotta address the fact that Bridget cannot hold back the Death Stranding, and it's either gonna happen or they need to figure out how to stop it. And low-key, I think if it has a bad ending and they don't stop it, good.
Not everything has a happy ending.
Yeah, that would be just crushing, and I'd love it. It would hurt so good because not everything is a good ending.
It's The Last of Us Part 2, where it's like not every ending has to be satisfying and has to be exactly what you want for it to still be an impactful ending. Not every ending has to be that way. And I agree with that. I very much agree with that principle. Not every story has a happy ending, but that doesn't mean it's not a great story. And I think that people have that misconception when it comes to storytelling, that, oh, you have to wrap it all up in a neat little bow and it's all going to make sense. And the characters, someone has to win, someone has to fall in love, someone has to get the girl, whatever. But that's not how it always goes. And I think this is the perfect franchise to really put that in perspective of maybe they can't stop it. Maybe they can't. And maybe they're just delaying the inevitable. But I'm interested to see what they do in a third game. I'm interested to see where they go from here, because unless they bring Higgs back, I think his story arc is done.
Go ahead,
Tom.
I'll say he got bitten in half by a giant baby. I don't know if he's coming back.
Yeah, unless they find a way to bring him back, they're going to be like, oh, he was a ghost mech the entire time. We can't get rid of him. He won't die. But
that might have been the single funniest thing that happened in that game. After the intense boss fight, the Metal Gear Solid 4 callback where you're just punching each other, but you're only throwing haymakers. Higgs has that incredibly open moment of the fact that he doesn't care. He just wants everything to end. He's like, it's too late. It's time. And then the baby hops out, snatches him up, and eats him like a cryptobiote. I was crying with laughter because I was losing my mind over that happening in that moment.
Now, there is one aspect of the ending that, Kyle, I'm surprised you didn't touch on, but to me, this was the moment that I feel wrapped up this story about as good as I think it possibly could have, while still leaving plenty of open threads. And that is obviously Fragile's dead. She is gone. And she's been dead for a while, according to Die Hardman. She has been dead for a while. So in the beginning of the game, when she and Lou are attacked at Sam's hideout, and Tom, you might have to help me explain a little bit of this because it does get a little bit screwy and there's a lot to remember. And we've been talking for about an hour and a half. Well, I can remember it in parts, but just help me if I struggle. Help me if I struggle. So, but when they are attacked by Higgs's men at Sam's hideout and they try to get away, Fragile, in her attempt to jump Lou, ultimately it leads to Lou's death. Leads to that. At the same time, she is also shot. And I'm pretty sure the way it's said is that she's kind of in between the land of the living, land of the dead. She's kind of in between, stuck in between, but she knows she doesn't have a lot of time left. So what she chose to do with that time was she wanted to go on a journey with Sam and help get him, not necessarily get him over, but help him process his grief of losing Lou because she felt responsible. So that finally, when she does do that and he does get over that grief and he does kind of prevail against that, it allows her to more or less say, okay, my job here is done. My job here is done. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I can die peacefully now. And to me, and Tom, I'll let you talk about it. To me, it wraps up a character arc that, again, I said at the top that I thought Fragile was a show stealer. And to me, that goes all the way through the ending of the game. I cannot imagine another game without her. But considering this is the wrap up for her character, it was pretty picture perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was an incredible conclusion for Fragile, especially if you include the first game where she is seen in the first game as a villain by a lot of people because there was a nuclear explosion that happened via a package that Higgs smuggled in through Fragile. Fragile caught it at the last second. She was working with Higgs at the time before he went full terrorist mode. And so Fragile catches it, tries to get rid of it. And Higgs is 2 steps ahead, finds out, forces her to run through Timefall unprotected with only a face mask on and no clothing with the package to throw it into the tar lake so it won't blow up the city. And so Fragile what Higgs ended up doing is blowing it up anyways. So Fragile has this reputation in the Death Stranding world of being a terrorist. Everybody hates her in that first game. And so she has this desire, this overarching desire to prove herself and to prove that what they're doing is a good thing to do. And by the end of that first game, she kind of gets there, but her character arc is still, she's trying to make sure that no matter what she does, she is doing everything in her power to better the lives of the people around her. And in doing that, and in giving her that character arc, to then have her be not responsible for what we think is Lou's death, but to have her be the only one there and be unable to stop it is absolutely devastating, because Sam is one of the only friends that she has in the entire world at that point. And Sam trusted her with his kid, and to both of their knowledge, Lou died on her watch. And she gets this chance to you were pretty much spot on. As she was trying to jump with Lou, Higgs shot her right as her body crossed from the physical to the spiritual world, from our world to the beach. And the bullet hit her, and it was a fatal shot. But because on the beach, time moves weirdly and it moves differently, which is why you'll often see when you get into boss fights with BTs, old buildings will pop up, old cars will pop up, because the time on the beach is different from time in our world. So it's you can, in those boss fights, you'll see snapshots of different eras. And so Fragile knew in that moment on the beach she was dead, but because the physical and the spiritual are separated just enough, she was literally living on borrowed time, because she knew that she was gonna die. And so she spends that entire time doing the thing that she does best, or doing the thing that she's been trying to do these past 2 games, which is trying to improve everybody around her, trying to improve the world around her, ultimately at her own expense, which with her character arc is something that I thought was the most perfect encapsulation of how you can explain Fragile. And I just thought that it was a great like her death was also a great callback to her big line from the first game, which is "I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile." And it's very much like yeah, the moment where you are literally quite literally to call back to Matt's joke from earlier, The Walking Dead. Like, yeah, that was brilliant, and it hurt so much, but it was such a good arc.
Yeah, it wraps up the story, in my opinion, in a really, really good way, and it leaves plenty of things open for the future. And I do think that it's going to be interesting to see where a third game goes. So we have talked about this game a lot. I think we've touched on just about everything. Tom, we appreciate having you on this episode. We're going to go ahead and we're going to call it right here. So that is going to do it for this episode of Side Mission. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Side Mission Pod. You can check us out on Facebook as well at Side Mission Podcast. For the boys, for Kyle, for Matt, for our guest Tom, I'm Rusty. Thanks for listening.